of Safety program is a unique and culturally responsive safety plan model for the settlement sector when they are supporting immigrant and refugee clients. Immigrants, immigrant women and people who identify as women who have been affected by gender-based violence don't always find mainstream approaches such as calling the police, leaving the family house, going to transition home, putting kids in new schools and changing community is not always helpful and actually creates more distress and maybe isolation for those families. There was a need for creating a culturally sensible safety planning tool, and that's why we thought about Roots of Safety. The goals are to train professionals originally in the settlement sector to be able, in a short period of time, address the safety needs of their clients. Roots of Safety creates kind of a balance between clients' cultural values, their family and social relationships, and how to create safety for themselves if they stay connected with a partner who has had abusive behavior. The focus is on the abusive behavior, not on the person, to honor and respect the individual with belief that when we understand that our behavior is hurtful to our loved ones, we can change and we can change our behavior.
So when we talk about the key features of Roots of Safety, the very first thing is the foundation that it is built on, which is the 3 columns. And what it entails is it has 3 columns, with one column referring to the strengths of the individual or the family or even the community. And then comes the challenges of that particular individual or client, and then comes the empowerment plan. So what empowerment plan does, it maps the strengths to the challenges, like how to handle them efficiently, and then what strategies should be utilized in order to avoid the violent situations that arise in a relationship. Because sometimes when you are dealing with a client who is having these traumatic episodes of violence, they are not in a capacity of putting down their strengths and challenges by themselves. So we give them a framework to think around. We help them label it down, like these are your strengths. And then it gives them a different visual, a different perspective of their own strengths. And then they're able to gather that courage to handle those challenges, and then they come up with an empowerment plan. So that is what is making it effective, giving a visualization to the client of their strengths, that they are capable of doing this. So it's not us that tell them, it's they explore it with us within this framework and put it together. And once it's done, they can refer back to it. And the circumstances might change, the situations might change, and then they can go back to it like, you know what, I have this added strength that added to my portfolio, or there's this new challenge that is coming up. And in order to map those 2 together, they are coming up with an empowerment plan. So what empowerment plan does, it helps them handle those situations more effectively and more efficiently. And when we talk about the features, it's a non-blaming, non-shaming, and non-judgmental approach that makes it even more effective, because now the person can openly list their challenges, openly list their strengths, and then openly list this works and this doesn't work. Like if somebody says, I want to stay in this relationship, right? Even though there's abuse. So you don't judge that response of that client. You actually respect it. And then you try to make a guideline around that requirement of the client in order to come up with, okay, how can we avoid having those situations of violence? So non-judgmental, non-blaming, and non-shaming approach, that makes it better too. And then talking about that, it's also very culturally sensitive and trauma-informed. You're not looking at the action of violence that happened. You look at a broader picture, like why did it happen? So that was just a symptom. So So you don't want to treat the symptom, you want to treat the cause of that symptom. So when you're looking at a bigger picture in a trauma-informed approach, that is what I believe is making the project very, very effective. So when we are talking about the key components, there's also one component that is very important, which is called appreciative inquiry, which means like we ask those questions which makes the person think in a broader framework. So take, for example, if somebody is having that episode of violence at home and they come to seek some assistance in order for their safety planning, we don't give them questions that could be either yes or no. We give them questions which is like appreciating their strengths, which is acknowledging their challenges, and then we let them explore the area around it. So take, for example, so what happened this morning that you really liked? So rather than asking, did you have a good day or a bad day? Like just like probing questions, right? But in an appreciative way rather than a targeting way. So if somebody approaches Roots of Safety and say like, we want to get that training, we would impart that training for them to be a trainer themselves, like how they can guide that communication with the client in order to come up with an empowerment plan for the client.
The Roots of Safety trainers need at least 4 hours to deliver a training to any professional who wants to learn that. We could make it 7 hours if we wanted to go into more detail, give more examples, explore more case studies. It's usually a group training to just save time and energy for everybody, and we do it in person and online as well, so there's that flexibility. One thing that Roots of Safety also provides is coaching after the training is completed. So we are available to answer questions, to start you up with your first client if you kind of forgotten, to give you a refresher, like maybe 30 minutes refresher. So we're gonna kind of coach you step by step, and we never lose contact with you. We're always available if there are more questions. And as we said, Roots of Safety has some material to work with children as well. It is quite vast, so depending on the needs of the workers that we train, we're going to give them more material.
Through this project, we provided this training for a number of community agencies, and through the evaluation, we evaluated how it went for the practitioners and how it went for our clients and their clients. We got a diverse group of clients to see the impact and how is it translating when it's coming from us, but how is it translating when it's coming from the practitioners who were trained. The tools that we used for practitioners was a pre and post evaluation. So before the training, what was their concept, what was their understanding of how to have a culturally agile and safe space and conversation with your clients as it relates to potential intimate partner violence, because that can be a very difficult conversation. And so that training embeds those pieces. And then post-evaluation, we assess the tools of how applicable was it, how easy was it for them to integrate it, and how did it impact the clients. So did they notice that it was helpful to those clients? And then for the client perspective, we brought a group of clients together to get more qualitative data. So by participating in the program and having a practitioner utilize these tools and these strategies with you, how do you think that impacted your journey? How did it address, what is your resiliency? What are your strengths? Did you get an empowerment plan? What did those look like? Were you connected with other resources? How did your journey go through that? And so the results came through in a way of how they were supported through their journey.
So when we get feedback from all these people that we are training under Roots of Safety, they're telling us it's very effective when they plan that safety planning. Like it gives them a tool to actually stick to, where they can do it in a very organized and a very visual way for these new immigrants who come and seek services from these service providers. They're able to use this with so many of these families or so many of newcomers or so many of immigrants like whichever clientele they have, they can execute that safety planning with them using Roots of Safety.
The key findings for clients through this project was clients repeating that they had a sense of community, they had a sense of belonging, they knew where to go in the community for support, and clients really reflected on their personal self-esteem growth. And through this program, we had over 180 community service providers who were trained. That's just 180 more people that can have an intentional impact on the clients. And we continue to have people in the community asking us for trainings for new staff coming in. So they're seeing that impact ongoing to the clients, and the clients are reporting back that increase in their personal well-being. 70% of the clients increased their personal wellness through this process and their social engagement and their resiliency. 70% of them recognized and increased over their time participating in services who've implemented the Roots of Safety.
The reason we can call Roots of Safety and innovative and forward thinking is that it could be expanded and duplicated, not only in cases when gender-based violence is affecting the client, but in any situation when client needs empowerment planning. So when they go to look for housing, for new jobs, when seniors need support, when children and youth need to be supported and protected from bullying. In any kind of programming, when clients need to identify their strength and values, and based on their strength and values, get a sense of pride, a sense of connecting to their roots and appreciating and honoring their own communities, and based on that, address their challenges, they can address those challenges by creating a safety and an empowerment plan. We have been able to embed the Roots of Safety in a program that is called Stories of Strength. Once we trained the community champions in Roots of Safety, they in turn go back to their own community and have presentations to the community. So these community groups comprised of seniors, children, youth, and adults. And also we have considered approaching indigenous services, LGBTQ community who have their own set of needs, right? And when we were looking at the 3 columns, we felt that it was quite appropriate for those communities as well. So I would say a huge range of clientele and groups can be benefiting from Roots of Safety.
My name is Rita, and I am a community champion trained in Roots of Safety. Some of the challenges that I faced were lack of trust, cancellations, delays, hesitations. For example, in the South Asian community, there's a stigma attached to the word violence. When we started this program and we were just saying violence, and they were like, no, they didn't want to talk about it, and we don't have that in our community kind of thing. And so then I realized, okay, the word violence has to be changed to another word which is more gentle. So the gentler word we found was conflict or challenge. And another thing we added to that was, especially to our seniors, instead of just giving them a lecture or a speech about stories of strength and Roots of Safety, we would tell them that, we are here to, since they have so much experience with the challenges of life, we are here to get some wisdom from them. So this was something new for them, and they were really open to us to give their experiences of life, and so that was a good thing.
If we feel that the clients are in charge of their own lives, and we are accompanying them on their journey. And we could sometimes be a catalyst, but ultimately they are the ones who know about themselves, about their past, about the family, and they are the ones who hold their own values, personal and cultural values. I think honoring that opens up the door for being more innovative and open-minded and also ethical. So each agency who are looking for new ways of supporting their clients, if we come up with ideas that are more client-centered and kind of touch upon the expertise, life expertise of the clients rather than the knowledge of the staff, I think that would be a lot more successful than us assuming that we are the experts and we're here to help the clients. And I think that's where Roots of Safety was rooted, that we did a survey and we learned that people wanted more culturally versatile, culturally agile programming and safety planning. So we followed the client lead, and that's why Roots of Safety is successful. So my advice would be always following the client's lead.